My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemere Glover. Naomi.
Well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News. Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
There's been a lot of fundraise, especially in the tech environment in Nigeria, and there's every need to be cautious, not to think that the fundraise itself is the end point. It's a means to an end. If the job is 100%, the fundraise is just 20%. There's still 80% to go. So what you certainly do not do is to raise funds and shortly thereafter go onto social media and brag about the brand new car you bought or the apartment you've moved into in Banana Island. It doesn't make for good optics. And unfortunately, when you really need the benefit of doubt, you might not get it from your investors. You don't raise money and then ask, so what should I do with the money? At that time, it's too late, you've lost the plot. When you raise money, you would have raised it based on the back of an agreement with your investor, clearly outlining how the money will be spent and how the returns will come. It's imperative to stick to that plan. And if anything changes in the environment or in the business and you have to pivot or there's going to be a significant change, it's imperative to then get the buy-in of the investor. The investors are not philanthropists.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemere Glover. Naomi.
Well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News. Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemere Glover. Naomi.
Well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News. Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Eche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamaze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
Government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, it's another beautiful day, another great opportunity for us to look at issues related to business, finance, global affairs, and the economy. This is Early Exchange, and I am Femi Ayodele. As you know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation. Today, our conversation will focus on the blue economy. President Tinubu is looking in that direction to actualize the dream of increasing, the economy, the 1 trillion, target for the Nigeria economy. So on the global scene, we're going to see how that is obtainable on the global scene. And precisely, we'll be looking at deep sea mining, the potential inherent in that and the opportunities globally. On the local scene, we're also going to look at some of the news that are trending locally. We're going to look at the issue of tax reforms as being embarked upon by the Presidential Committee, the implication of this for all Nigerians. We hope that to join us for the next 2 hours, we're going to make your day worthwhile. We hope you're ready with us or ready for us. Don't forget you can be part of this conversation. This implies that you can go on our social media platform, on our YouTube page to share your view. Like I always say, it's your program, so let your voice be heard. And now we'll go on a short break. When we return, the news update will come, where Adesua will be taking the news update. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to the news update right here on Souq News. I'm Adesua Iromoseli. As part of its efforts to engage African countries in discussions on various aspects of U.S.-African partnerships covering trade, climate infrastructure, health, security, and other critical issues, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has arrived in Nigeria on Tuesday for a working visit. Blinken, who had earlier pledged a $45 million additional financing to help fight conflict and bring stability to coastal West Africa in Ivory Coast earlier yesterday, also expressed strong interest from American investors to work and invest in Nigeria. While speaking to newsmen in Abuja, he disclosed that 1 year after the Africa Leaders Summit commitment to generate an additional $55 billion in private sector investment in Africa, the U.S. is already 40% of the way to achieving that goal. He, however, stressed the need to create a favorable investment climate in Nigeria and other African nations. Still in Africa, the World Bank has given its approval for $300 million in funding to support Ghana's economic recovery. This decision follows Ghana's successful restructuring of $5.4 billion in loans with official creditors, marking a significant step in the country's efforts to secure debt relief amid its severe economic crisis. The approval financing is the initial installment of a series of 3 operations, each amounting to $300 million. This financial support is part of the broader World Bank commitment to aiding crisis response and enhance resilience in Ghana, aiming to assist the nation in navigating its way out of the most profound economic challenges it has faced in a generation. And now, Asia market gained momentum yesterday amid expectations of support from Chinese authorities for their struggling stock market, currently at multi-year lows. The broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan increased by 0.27%, although it remains down by 5% for January, marking its poorest monthly performance since August. Meanwhile, Japan's Nikkei experienced a 0.68% dip after reaching a fresh 34-year high the previous day, and the yen strengthened due to the Bank of Japan's hawkish stance on Tuesday. The spotlight in Asia is firmly on Chinese equities, and despite a report suggesting a $278 billion support package, investors remain cautious. While there is a desire for market stability, experts stressed a measured approach to avoid unconditional injections. Moving on, Japan's Center for Economic Research says Japan's major companies are anticipated to propose an average wage increase of 3.85% to their union in 2024, marking the highest surge in 31 years. The estimate surpasses last year's three-decade high of 3.6%, signifying the most sustainable gain since the early 1990s, when Japan's asset bubble burst. While numerous large firms had committed to significant pay hike last year, smaller companies, struggling businesses have been slower to follow suit, and their ability to contribute to higher wages hinge on negotiations. Currently, base pay rises constitute 2.15% of the overall expected 3.85% hike in 2024, while the seniority-based automatic annual wage hike accounts for 1.7%. Rising base pay, though beneficial, poses challenges for companies, leading some to shy away from such increases in the past. And finally, as part of its effort to diversify its economy and generate more employment opportunities, Saudi Arabia has invested billions in transforming itself into an electric vehicle hub. As part of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's economic reforms, the kingdom invested $10 billion in Lucid Motors, established its EV brand Sear, and built an EV metal plant. The Public Investment Fund, PIF, targets annual EV production of 500,000 by 2030. However, as of December, the Seoul Auto Factory had only reassembled 800 vehicles, facing challenges attracting auto components producers. While Saudi Arabia aims to overcome hurdles, expected high competition, the need for local industry, and the importance of raw materials like lithium. And with that, we call it a wrap on the news update. I'm Adesua Eremoseli. Many thanks to you for watching.
All right, thank you, Adesua, for taking us around the world with the news update. We'll go on a short break now. When we return again, we'll have a major conversation with our guests, where we'll be looking at deep sea mining, the potential inherent in it globally. Stay with us.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godio Didi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News.
So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence. I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
The National Theatre, Igomu. Built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, Festac, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged Festac 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theater complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment. Good morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
If government says that subsidy is not in oil and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, it's abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Good morning. It's good to know you're still with us on Early Exchange, and this morning we are looking at deep sea mining. It's becoming interesting for the world. How sustainable is it, and what are the potentials in deep sea mining? How many countries can afford to go into deep sea mining? Are there issues that countries may need to agree on before it can commence for some regions? These are some of the issues we're looking at this morning as we'll talk about deep sea mining. Now, Femi is wearing blue, and that's significant because when you talk about the ocean, it has to be blue, and that's why it's called blue economy most times. So, Femi, how many minerals have you been able to mine from the seabed?
Oh, interesting. You know, I like your intro, the fact that, you know, I had to put on the blue color. Mm-hmm. Interesting, that's my favorite color.
Oh, so you would like deep sea mining?
I feel delighted when I see anything related to that color. So talking about the blue economy resonates with me as a person. But interestingly, it's a conversation that is, you know, ongoing all over the world. There's a need for nations to look at the potential inherent in blue economy. The concept of blue economy is not new, but as far as some African countries now, it's new because some of the, you know, administrative heads are now taking interest in that. For instance, Nigeria, you know, let's look at the genesis of this for Nigeria. When the president came on board, he gave the vision of seeing that the economy of Nigeria is being increased to a $1 trillion economy. And to make that a reality is looking at the direction of blue economy. And experts who have spoken in this regard said the blue economy has the potential to generate about 7 trillion naira for Nigeria. When it comes to the issue of IGR, it's very important, very crucial to governance. And then President Bola Tinubu coming on board, you know, with all the expectations on him. If you look at the capital projection for this year, looking at our budget, there's a need to look for avenue to source for revenues, IGR, you know, to be able to implement some of these projects. And then even looking at the optimism of the minister in charge of blue economy, Oyetola, who said, okay, Nigeria has the potential and the resources to generate the right revenue that the president is looking for. So if the target is to increase the strength of the economy to a $1 trillion naira economy, then it means that we have to take focus at the blue economy. And so that's why Nigeria as a nation is taking more interest in blue economy other than before. And now, how does it going to translate for Nigeria? Now, the plan is to ensure that the right framework is being put in place, because when you talk about deep sea mining, it's not a business for the chicken-hearted.
At all.
When it comes to fund, it's quite expensive, and if you look at the expertise involved, the technology involved, it's not something that's available locally, and that's why investment is going on in that direction. So Nigeria as a nation has unveiled what they call a 7-point agenda to ensure that they'll be able to take advantage of these resources and to tap some of these things inherent in the deep oceans. What you have before now is just the literal mining, where but this time around they want to do into deep sea mining, which is usually 200 meters above the sea level. And there are several minerals inherent in the ocean, about 40 of them deposited in the ocean. You have copper, you have lithium, you have gold. And lithium, for instance, if you look at the stretch of lithium, is what is part of the components being used for your battery, the common batteries for car, for vehicles. And that's why all these minerals are quite important for survival and also to generate revenue. So the federal government is looking in that direction to make more revenue, and that's why they have unveiled, the 7-point agenda. But let's see what our guest, who is an expert in blue economy, we have to say as regards this trends globally. We have the privilege of hosting Professor Oladokun Olarewaju, who is a blue economy expert this morning. Glad to have you join us on Early Exchange this morning, Professor Oladokun. I hope you can hear me. Good morning. Glad to have you joining us on the Early Exchange. I know you are in transit somewhere in Asia. Okay, can you please unmute your device so that the conversation can start smoothly?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Mute.
All right, as an expert in this field, when it comes to the issue of blue economy, you've written several books, and I would like you to provide us a background and overview of what blue economy is all about. Specifically, we're looking at deep sea mining. I would like you to give us details of what it entails when you talk about deep sea mining, the processes, the technology involved, and then the trends globally. And we can also look at the opportunities inherent in deep sea mining. You have the floor now.
Okay, thank you very much. I am in the middle of travel, so this time I will provide short answers. Yes, blue economy is more or less a system of integrating marine activities so that the use of the ocean space can be done in an efficient and sustainable manner, and also cost-effective manner. As I mentioned in an earlier exchange, doing business in water body is different from doing business in at sea. So blue economy involve maritime activities as well as new activities, traditional maritime activities that we are all familiar with, including shipping and related activities related to ports, shipping and port, and new activities related to cultivation of the ocean and exploration of ocean resources, okay, for either new material for the industries, etc., including deep sea mining.
For deep sea mining, as much as there are several minerals underneath the sea that the world may want to begin to explore, aren't you concerned about the disturbance it may cause to aquatic life and to the ecosystem underneath the sea?
Okay, yes, deep sea mining actually is something that is being debated worldwide now. Yes, mining has economic potential, and places where mining has been done in the past, um, there are a lot of problems that arise on land for many years where they are not sustainably done. For example, if mining is done in some places, the miner must also prove that, okay, after they finish all the extraction, what they are going to do with the space. For example, on land, there are possibility to create lake, for example, and this can have some benefit, or to create some forest. This can have some benefit, but most of the time, these are not properly done as well because of shortcuts in implementation. For example, when people are creating forests, they plant the same trees, which culture cultivation, which creates even more problems. Now, when it comes to deep sea mining, conservation activities like this, like creating lake or forest, is almost impossible. And there are there are impacts related to disturbance of aquatic habitat life, biodiversity, even sediment. And not only that, even without mining the ocean, we have seen that the number one extreme event threat is flooding. Now, if this deep sea mining is introduced, meaning we are creating the end to ourselves, the end to the planetary systems. So I think the negative, when you compare negative and positive of deep sea mining, the negative area and impact is more than the positive. It's just the same thing like comparing nuclear power benefit and advantage and disadvantage. So there will be tremendous impact. I'll give you one example. And this example is very close to you at home. You know, the the dredging, a lot of dredging work that is going on, especially in Lagos coast, it leads to, they are good because they prevented flooding in one area, but water is, and nature is always finding ways, and it's always making sure it's going at its own space. And this kind of activities, they are causing problem in other areas. For example, they are causing erosion in other area that those who did this never thought about. So that will be tremendous impact of for deep sea mining. So.
Understanding of some of the minerals deposited in the seabed, talking about sea mining, I still want you to dwell more on the potential, even though we need to talk about the problems. But for those who want to invest in this kind of venture, what kind of technology is needed? What kind of expertise is needed? And what are the potentials for whoever is going to invest in this either as an individual or as a nation?
Okay, to do deep sea mining, there need to be thorough environmental impact assessment. So Environmentalists must be involved. The science need to be done properly. There is no shortcut about from A to Z. Every detail need to be accounted for, and the whole process need to be simulated. So you need expertise for all of this, and on top of that, you also need heavy machineries and even mere cultivation work like aquaculture or moving the ship in the ocean are not cheap, and they are very expensive, and they are laborious, and they attract loss of equipment and also loss of life. Now, mining is more of intense activities, and um I think that there will be need for expertise to environmental expertise, and also um, modeler engineering modeler to model the impact, what will happen before um, the implementation of deep sea mining. And these are not cheap, and this takes time. And normally the business world like to do things very fast. So for deep sea mining, everything need to be done properly in detail, and it need to be really well regulated. So these are the expertise that will be involved: the engineers and the environmentalists, and also the regulators, as well as um, uh, also third party reviewer, and also collaboration is required. Now, I think for Africa, my suggestion is we should try to do sustainable mining online. We do it in a sustainable way, and make sure that we don't destroy most of the land itself, because the land to the sea ratio is 70-30. So yeah, there is some risk here. Now, yes, the ocean is big, it's wide, but you know, the ocean regulates the planetary system, the temperature, the climate, the wind is set up from the ocean, and the waves and everything. So the moment you touch every piece of the oceans, all of these things change.
Okay, like you rightly mentioned, mining activities have been going on the land, and they've been mining minerals from minerals deposited in the land. So why is the attention now turning to the sea? The minerals found in the sea, can't they be found anywhere in land?
Yes, I think in most places where intense mining is going on, most of the space has been used to mine, and uh, in some developed economy, mines are closed because of the age of knowledge, sustainability knowledge. The people are aware that okay, something is going to go wrong with the future generations, so people are closing mining, and in some cases they only do it when it is really necessary. For example, in Germany, coal mines are being closed, and people are protesting every day, every time they want to do it again. Now, in Africa, people are getting up to do mining, and this need to be done carefully, because in our continent we don't face extreme event like other places. And if we do intense mining, industrial mining, there will be socio-economic problems, and also there will be also, it might also create other new extreme event that, for example, earthquake and all of this. the tectonic plate of the planet might be, touched in the process. So land mining also we need to be careful about this. Yes, we need the mineral, and yes, if we need them and we need them to develop the economy, if the science is well done, then we can mine, but it has to be done sustainably. Now, turning to the sea, it's very rosy. Yes, the sea is big and there are many minerals there, and we need to go after them, but we also need to. I think the whole thing is guided by ignorance. We also need to look at the whole thing in a holistic way that, um, well, um, the ocean also govern the planetary system. If there is no ocean, there will not be life on this planet, because this is the only thing that cure all the waste coming from the land. And again, like I mentioned earlier, most of the climate system, they are set up from the ocean. And every time we put excessive disturbance, they create very, very big problem that takes years to fix.
Now, let's shift attention to the issue of commercial extraction. This has been trailed with several controversies over the years. And as we speak now, commercial extraction is not being allowed by the International Seabed Authority. What are the concerns here, and what are your recommendations on how to manage these concerns globally?
My recommendation, I will start with recommendation, is for the regulatory authorities locally and internationally to work together to diligently look at the impacts, to look at to identify all the hazards, and to also match if they can be mitigated or not before giving authorizations and for deep sea mining, and also to involve the expertise, all the stakeholder and the expertise that is needed to make seabed mining works, and to also number three, to look into data, including historical data and new data, to compare everything, to make sure that this data they can be used as part of the process to make decision for approval of deep sea mining. And also the science and engineering need to be done well. Like I mentioned earlier, the mining need to be modeled. Every aspect of it need to be modeled on computer to make sure that, okay, if things are done this way, this is what will happen. Can it be mitigated or not? The risk, if it can be mitigated, then they can give approval. Also, expertise related to environmental, biology, chemistry, all of this, they're also needed to look at what will be impact related to pollution and all that.
All right. There are also concerns regarding deep sea mining, concerns about the miners getting into areas that are beyond national jurisdiction. Is there a recommendation in that aspect?
Yes, there is always there have been a procedure for the use of international water, and our nations manage this. And again, I think issues about deep sea mining is being debated, and there is need for nations that share a water body to talk about this, to also exchange knowledge, to exchange studies, to, if possible, to jointly do it. But um, in foreseeable future, I do not recommend the mining of the seabed, because it will create more flood, more coastal flooding, and this is really not good for the coastal community.
All right. Norway made an history last week by being the first nation in the world to commercialize deep sea mining. Now, for a country like Nigeria, what will be the starting point for us?
The starting point will be, again, especially blue economy has to be data driven. Okay, data need to be collected, and risk need to be assessed regarding okay, where this mineral are, and technique need to be evaluated. What is the best technique to make sure there will be less no sediment problem, no biodiversity problem, no disruption of aquatic life, or destruction of the ocean systems, and how it is maintaining or uh, curing or governing the planetary system. So this need to be done now. The business people mostly don't have time for this, and but this need to be done, because yes, we are going to mine, but the problem will be created for the future generation.
Okay, so companies and governments who want to mine who are looking to mine the metals underneath the sea argue that it will aid the shift to a greener economy. How valid is this argument?
Like I mentioned earlier, there is a potential economic benefit, but the the impact is far more than the economic benefit. And it's just like, again, the case of nuclear power. Nuclear power is sweet, it's good, and you can keep generating energy, but there are the negative aspects are not good, like people exposure to radiation, and even disposal of the waste. So for deep sea mining, I think is almost the same thing, and it is sweet. It sounds very good. That okay, we have the sea, we have to mine it, and we have to use the money to develop the economy. But we can, maybe we can use the ocean resources in other ways, like for example, generating energy from the ocean. It's also like more or less like mining, but you are not breaking anything. You're just putting something to create something else, or putting kg
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemari Glover. Naomi.
Well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News. Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirement.
Mining today, solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, indeed, our obligation is to shape policy and advance development with our conversation, and that's why we're looking at deep sea mining. Don't forget, you can be part of this conversation. All you just need to do is to go on our social media platform, on our YouTube page, to share your view. And if you have questions for our guests or for us, we're here for you. Just put the questions on our YouTube page on our social media platform. We still have our special guest here with us. We still have Professor Lanre Waju with us. Glad to know you're still there with us, Prof. All right, now let's look at the issue of illegal mining. There's a report suggesting that for a country like Nigeria, the country loses about 9 trillion naira went to illegal mining. Now, when it comes to deep sea mining, do you foresee any form of threat when it comes to illegal mining? Okay, I learned the guest is trying to log in, Blessing, when it comes to the issue of illegal mining, that's been of concern. When you look at, there's what we call SWOT analysis, which is usually done when you need to embark on a project, that's part of the insight you get from the issue of project management. So when it comes to the issue of mining, there's this report that suggests that Nigeria loses 9 trillion annually, when it, 9 trillion naira annually to illegal mining. A good example, a reference is what is happening in Zamfara now when it comes to solid minerals. You have those people who have constituted themselves into a cartel whereby they do more of racketeering in that sector. And the activities are so germane that they are even holding the state to ransom. Some of these people are there illegally, and they are conducting these businesses with the connivance of some of the host communities and some of the leaders in those communities, because they have this feeling that, okay, this thing belongs to us, and then they also need to be part of it to share what you call the national cake. But this has been bleeding the nation. I wanted to find out from, Prof, what would be the impact on that on, deep sea mining, because as long as you have the legitimate business owners,
you also have people who want to take advantage. Miners in the sea area. Yes, that's already happening. It's not that it's going to happen. It's already happening, just that attention is not being given to it. You find people who mine sand from under the sea, even in Nigeria and in other places. How many of them have the legal permission to do so? So a lot of times, because the waterways are not really manned and policed, and surveillance in some areas is very limited, so you find illegal activities ongoing. So of course, as you have illegal miners mining on land, you will have them also in the sea. But the extent to which you have the illegal mining is the issue, because it also depends on the knowledge that they have. So once the miners, whether legal miners or illegal miners, have knowledge that would take them beyond a certain depth, and if they have knowledge of certain minerals where they can be found, trust that you would have such people. Already you have pirates on the sea that attack ships and attack vessels. So if you could have those, and till date there has been no full control of the activities of such persons, then you know that the deep sea mining, you would have illegal miners already compounding the issues, and it's really going to be very difficult controlling their activities, because while the authorities may want to regulate the legal miners, the extent to which they can go, how they carry out the activities, For those, you really cannot control that except if there's improved monitoring of the waterways. All right, we have Dr. Ladukum back with us this morning on the show, and we'll continue a conversation with him virtually. All right, before you joined in again, Femi wanted to know exactly the threat of illegal mining. What would that cause for deep sea mining when it becomes operational? We already have illegal miners creating some menace in land mining. So how would that how would that happen in deep sea mining? Please unmute your mic.
Okay. As you mentioned, it's illegal. That means the regulation system is weak. And one, for deep sea mining, like you said, they're already doing it. And this is not right, because when the problem starts, natural event problems start, the people that are doing it, they are not giving any records, so it's really compound how to solve problems. Now, one thing is, I think it's very, very important for the government to bring awareness, to educate the people that, okay, mining is not just about extracting the resources, but it's also about disturbing the planetary systems, and this require proper information to be documented about how much sand is being removed and what are the impacts. So, and anybody that wants to do it has to get a license for this purpose, so that they can record it, so that they can know when problems start, how to solve it. I think there is needs to have some education and awareness, awareness program for these people. And not only that, if people are mining, meaning the government should quickly intervene, maybe to involve in the mining or the industry, and involve these people in it. And then everything will become fair for everybody.
I'm not too clear if I got you right. You said the government should try and involve illegal miners in the business. I don't know, what kind of risks will that portend for the waters and that kind of business? How will that turn out? And then what is the tendency that these people can actually be managed or curtailed, the activities be curtailed? Isn't that dangerous?
Yeah. I have to leave at 4 o'clock. Yes, the tenants, these people are mining probably because they have economic problem. Probably they are looking into ownership of, extracting what belongs to them. Now, if these activities is enhanced either by business or the government, then they should be able to employ these people. But that means the authorized people that can do this have to get the permit, they have to get the EIA done, environmental impact assessment, and thorough study done about the impact. Okay, that if they mine, there will not be flooding, that will erase the future generation, because this life is not only for us, but it's also for our children and our grandchildren, so that they can also have a taste of life that we live.
Let you go very quickly, but before you do, could you respond to the issue of sand mining? Now, this is not as grand or as big as deep sea mining for metals, but sand is constantly being extracted from the seabed, and we have these operations in several nations, including Nigeria. Some even extract from the seabed from rivers. Now, how dangerous is this? Is there a way to do this without actually disturbing the aquatic life?
It's very dangerous because number one, the seabed has a lot of link with how much waves is coming to the coast, and it can easily lead to coastal flooding. Okay, now for the river, if the river is dredged, widening because of siltation or because of sediment deposition, this is a different story. It's called maintenance dredging. So people need to be educated about this. To mine or to do something, a study need to be done that, okay, a problem is coming and then they need to take out this amount of soil. Not everything. It's just like fishing as well. You just go to the ocean and catch all the fish. No, you have to do the stock. So when you want to mine, or you don't call it mining, but you want to do maintenance dredging for the river or for the channel or where the vessels are passing or for the coast, so that after some time, the data are showing that a lot of sediment have been deposited and they need to be removed. So everything needs to be done with data. And this is what we in Africa need to get used to. We need to start collecting data and do things based on data, based on information, based on knowledge. And this way, we have sustainable development that we are all looking at.
All right, Professor Olariwaji, we need to thank you for your time. We understand you are in transit. For you creating time out of your busy schedule to share your thought with us on the Early Exchange. We really appreciate it and we commend you for your patriotism. Thank you so much for your thoughts and your time.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me again. I wish you a good day.
So
Bye-bye.
You've heard the professor talked about, the opportunities in blue economy. We talked about, deep sea mining. What should be the narrative globally? Now we'll go on break, and when we return, we'll have another conversation. All you just have to do is stay with us.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, FESTAC, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged FESTAC 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theater complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi.
My name is Etemari Glover. Naomi.
Well done, and shout out to Souq News.
Shout out to Souq News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching Souq News. Shout out to Souq News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching Souq News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to Souq News for your news requirements.
Morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Blessing Aiche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
It's a national orientation agency. It's, as far as I'm concerned, very idle and unprofessional.
The government says that subsidy is not in oil, and government is not supposed to be paying subsidy in oil.
Energy or whatever kind of off-grid solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, glad to know you're still there with us. Our next focus has to be the issue of tax reforms in Nigeria. We're looking at the tax policies in Nigeria. In 2023, when President Tinubu came on board, he constituted a committee, a tax reforms committee called the Presidential Tax Force Committee, headed by Taiwo Oyedele, an expert in that area. And they've been going the length and breadth of the country to look at some of the tax policies and how to harmonize the tax laws, to look at some of the issues and some of the challenges. The committee came up with 20 recommendations, which is what we're going to look at, and our guest is going to review this. We are being joined by Dr. Fowokon Titilayo, who is the Group Head, Strategic Tax and Compliance, Dangote Industry Limited. Dr. Titilayo, glad to have you join us on Early Exchange this morning.
Good morning, and nice to be with you this morning.
Oh, always a pleasure to host you as well. Let me say Happy New Year. It's your first time we're meeting, the first time we're meeting this year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you.
Great, glad to have you here. Now, let's start with this question, which has been the concern for most Nigerians, the issue of tax reforms. Will you say is a necessity looking at the present situation guiding, tax policies in Nigeria when it comes to the issue of regulation, duplication of taxes, and some of the issues guiding tax policy in Nigeria? Do you consider that to be a necessity, and why, if it is?
Yes, I would say that we are actually on the right direction. We are taking the right step. It's long overdue for us to have this reform. Though we've been having some reforms on an annual basis through our annual Finance Act that started from 2019, but there's always need for an holistic review of our tax system. When we do the Finance Act, we do the review in bits and pieces, and this has not really made us to deal with all the issues at a go. But it would be good for us to have this reform looked at. In fact, one of the things that we need to do is the review of our tax laws, a general review. And I think that's one of the things that the committee is looking at. We also have issues around the state taxes. We have issues around the local government taxes, which I believe that if we look at, if this committee is able to come up with an holistic review, we'll address these issues. And when we do this tax policy reform, and we are able to make the tax system to be investor friendly, and also be a system where taxpayers can easily pay their taxes without being compelled. The understanding of the tax laws are so easy, basic, so there's no excuse that I don't know will not be there. So it is something that is a welcome development, and they have the right people that have been handling it. I know Taiwo Idele has been an advocate of simplifying the tax system. He has always been at the forefront of government making the life of Nigerians to be easy, making life not to be difficult for Nigerians. And coming on board this committee, I think he has what it takes. It's only that, you know, when you have this type of work to do, you have to also carry along everybody and be sure that everybody is fully aligned in whatever is being proposed. So I think the reform is right. It's the right time to do it. Now that we have a new government, now that we are looking at a sustainable way of maintaining our revenue generation. If you look at it in the past 4 or 5 years, we've been seeing that tax revenue has been the source of funding for the federal government, and the states have also been getting their own share through the FAC allocation. So the tax reform is a welcome idea, and some of the things that have been coming out of the work of this committee has really made us to know that we have what it takes to make the tax environment better, and also to be easier for the taxpayers. But one thing is this: even at all this that is being done, it's good for taxpayers to also see taxpayers' money at work. And I want to believe that the essence of this reform committee is not just to tell us how to pay tax better, how government collect revenue better, but how to also make the life of taxpayers better in the midst of trying to be compliant with the tax regulations and being a good citizens of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Okay, Happy New Year to you too, because it's the first time that we would see you this year. I need to say that to you as well.
Happy
not just
New Year.
saying Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right, so Nigeria aims to boost tax collections by 57% in this year, 2024. And one of the issues with tax has been the collection, where it is seen to have some leakages. Now, Taiwo Idele proposed that the training of area boys or boys on the streets for tax collection. What's your take on that? Do you find it a recommendation that will have feasible implementation?
I would not say it won't assist in what we're trying to achieve. We have a lot of collection agents, and it's right to say the area boys. If you go to some states, on the road you have roadblocks. And who are the people that are mounting the roadblocks? They are not the government officials. They are people that have been appointed, maybe third parties, that collect this money. Some of them are not even appointed. They just decide that we are in charge. This is our land. This is our road. And they force the taxpayers to pay funny levies and charges, which are not even in any law. So if we have this education of the people to know the right way to approach this tax collection, it will help. But that notwithstanding, they may not even understand so much as to the benefit for them. If they see that if they collect the right tax, the right way, and government is able to use it to make their own life better, then they would be able to do it better. I want to say that tax education is necessary for not only the area boys, for everybody, from government, federal, to state, to local government, to taxpayer, to market women, to students. Because when we all understand what tax obligations are, and understand the whole objective of tax collection, and understand the benefit of paying the taxes, then we would now all align and synchronize in the way we approach tax revenue generation. Now, one thing is for the area boy to collect the money and feel that it is a national cake, and it doesn't go into the government purse. And government is still struggling to be able to provide infrastructure for this same set of people to use. But if government is able to educate them and also let them see the benefits in this for them, not just collecting it, but when you collect and you remit and it comes to government account, these are the things we want to do. These are the things we will do, and these are the things we have done, which is accountability. When you do the education and you crown it with responsibility and accountability, then the area boys we're talking about will understand why they need to be educated and why they need to collect this money and pay it into government purse, and why they should also hold government accountable for whatever is being collected and remitted to government purse. So I think it's not just education. You have to supply, you have to, do the education and back this up with accountability and responsibility on the part of the government, whether it's the local government, whether it's the state government, whether it's the federal government, and there's transparency. And I think this would do some, it may not be totally something that you can achieve in a day, because when you're talking about area boys, we have different categories of area boys. So he also needs to shed more light on that to tell us how best, because one thing is for you to give us a proposal, and that is for you to tell us how to implement it seamlessly. Because when you implement and at the end of the day you get stuck, you cannot achieve the objective, then it's like back to square one. So I want to believe that the working papers or the working principle or the implementation plan for this will also be shared, and we all will see this and see how feasible it will be. But it cannot remove the hands of the unions in this. We have pressure groups. So if you're going to educate the area boys, you must also know that these area boys have a union, that you must make sure that they buy into what you're proposing. And I think that is necessary. And for every group we have in this country, tax education is important, but you can't do it in isolation of the body that brings them together. If the body is able to buy into what you're saying, they are able to convince their members, and that makes it to be seamless for you to implement. Thank you.
Now, let's shift our attention to the issue of multiple taxation. Small businesses in Nigeria are battling with this. In fact, according to the report released by the committee, manufacturers are obliged to pay up to like 60 different taxes, while even motorists moving from north to south are also battling with 60 different, taxes. Talk to us. What's the implication of this, and how can this shortfall be managed?
The issue of multiplicity of taxes has been on before now. It's not a new thing, and it's even getting worse. I can tell you the level of, this is January, the level of tax demands that have been coming to companies as we're starting this new year has been rising, and this is likely to continue. It's not good for business because, number one, it makes business environment to be harsh, because it's like you must pay or you don't do anything. Number two, it increases the cost of doing business. And number three, it's passed on to the consumer of whatever goods is being produced. And that is not going to help us, because we're talking about there is increase in fuel price. We're talking about issues around exchange rates. Those ones already have their impact. And by the time we add all these smaller bits of levies, charges, and the likes, which are not within the law, we found a situation whereby we have a federal law, Cap T2, LFN 2004 as amended. That's the taxes and levies approved list for collection, which states what federal, state, and local government should collect. Everything in this act is not more than 39, spread across federal, state, and local government. But now we're talking about 60 different taxes. What is the implication? The cost of doing business will go on the high side. The businesses will be under pressure to pay what is not legal. Permit me to use that word legal, because in some cases there are no laws. And there are other things that are unconstitutional. We have cases whereby some laws are enacted and they are conflicting with even the roles in the constitution of some of these of the bodies that are enacting the laws. So I think we need to streamline this, and this is one of the things that the commission, the committee is looking at. How do we streamline this? Make it easy for business. Why businesses are leaving Nigeria? Is it what we want? No, we want to be developed. We want businesses to develop. We want indigenous and even foreign direct investments to come in. If we are having this, even our indigenous companies are not finding it funny with multiplicity of taxes. If you work in 36 states, it means that across every state, you must pay double what you're paying, even triple at times, because of everybody that wants to collect. You are in one state and there are local governments Out of the 774 local government in Nigeria, if all of them will be asking you to pay the same thing at the same time because you are across the nations of the states of the country, then you can imagine what that would be. And the consumers will say, sorry, things are expensive. So it is high time we let the people know that the cost of production is impacted by not only the cost of raw materials, it's also impacted by all these levies, charges, and everything. It goes into the cost. It goes into the bottom line. And no company will come and say, I want to do business. Even if it's a PLC, your shareholders are expecting returns. Otherwise, as good as their investment is trashed. So I think it will be good for this to be streamlined so that it can be ease of business, part of the ease of business objective. It will also be good for us to have clear, there should be clarity. There should be, you must be sure of what you're paying. Let me give an example. If I'm paying my company's income tax, it's expected that is supposed to be used by the federal government, and part of this will also be allocated to states for their projects. We pay VAT. VAT is shared by the 3 tiers of government. Now, the same company will now also pay the state taxes and levies. Payee is paid by the employees, which also goes to government of the states and the FCT for the purpose of government projects. Now, those ones are there. You now have what we call infrastructure maintenance levy. We have road levy. We have signage levy. We have advertisement levy and all those things. And everything now still boils down to the same taxpayer. So it's just going to be too much for the businesses to bear. And at the end of the day, the consumers will continue to complain that the cost of the goods are on the high side.
Okay, in the reform as well, there is also the recommendation that the tax nets should be expanded rather than increase tax and make businesses pay more taxes. It should be expanded to include those who are not paying tax. Now, in your assessment, are there certain groups that are not included in the tax net that it should expand to?
When we talk about expanding the tax nets, it's very clear. It's easy for the tax authorities to capture companies that are established. Their names are out there, but it's not easy for the tax authorities to capture the briefcase companies. And that is where collaboration with the CAC needs to come in. Do we know all the companies registered? It's expected that as they come in, they register, so the CAC can now have a handshake with the FIRS or the states that we have the FIRS, let's say the FIRS at the federal level, that we have these companies that have been established. Are they in the tax? Are they paying their taxes? Are they filing their tax returns? So these are the type of expansion that we look for, not the people that are paying, but those who are not paying. They are established in Nigeria, they come in, they do one thing or the other, and we have other agencies of government that register them. There must be that way of picking them. When we come to the states, the CAC also register business names. Are they also in handshake with the state that these businesses have been registered to be established in your state? Are they also remitting their taxes, filing their returns under the State Personal Income Tax Act that covers individuals, body of individuals, and the likes? So that handshake also be there. So when we talk of expanding, we're not saying those who are already there. We're talking about those who are not there. And I believe there are people that are not there. We're talking in terms of I've just given an example, people that are registered, that are not in the net. Some may have been there operating business. When business deal with business and you have tax obligations, do you ensure that you get the other party to fulfill their tax obligations by being an advocate? A lot of times we hide some of these things if we do, but if you come to me and you're not doing, you cannot give me evidence that you're registered for tax, I would ask for it because it is the obligation of everybody to ensure we all pay tax. And then we have the informal sector. They're the largest, about 60-something%. If we need to see how do we get them to come in, understand their obligations when it comes to tax, pay the right tax to be paid. I don't believe in paying more than what you're supposed to pay as a tax obligation. Pay the right amount of tax. Now, when we are able to bring in the informal sector, those who are registered and are doing business one way or the other, for instance, now, the non-residents have now started coming in. I'll tell you that an educational outfit like LinkedIn is now going to tell you, if I'm doing anything for you, I'm registered to collect tax, to collect VAT. So when I invoice you, I invoice VAT, pay me the VAT, and I'll go and remit to FIRS. So we are having that come in. So once we are able to get all the people that are supposed to pay tax, we can minimize the impact, and we can also show them that what you pay as a government, we are accountable, and we are using it to make life better for citizens, and everybody will be better for it.
Interesting. Now let's look at the issue of tax waiver. Last year, the National Assembly had to query, the executive as regards, arbitrary granting of waivers and all that. Now let me read to you, part of the recommendations by this committee says tax break for private sector in respect of wage increases to low-income earners, transport subsidy, and net increase in employment. Now, let's look at the issue of tax waiver. How will you assess the manner at which the federal government has been approaching this in recent times, and what will be the impact of these on the economy or when it comes to revenue generation?
Okay, when it comes to tax waivers, we also need to understand what waivers are for. Waivers are actually supposed to be for economic development. There are some waivers that are given to some sectors because we want to develop the economy in that area. I am not against such waivers. For instance, if we want to develop agriculture, and we are giving special waivers for agriculture, not indefinitely, I need to make that clear. Giving it to them for the time when they need to develop, when they need to get stabilized. Agriculture has a gestation period. You consider a waiver for them once the business is able to stand and is generating profits, is able to roll over whatever they have, the business is doing well, then there's no need for waivers. So waivers should actually be targeted at some economic benefits. Some industries are giving waiver because we want to develop.
Into the solid minerals as an example is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, we sincerely apologize for that disruption. It's just due to technical glitch, but hey, we are here. This is Early Exchange, and we're looking at the issue of tax reforms in Nigeria and some of the steps being taken by the Presidential Committee on Tax Reforms. Our guest is still here with us. Glad to know you're still there with us. All right, we'll go on a short break now for us to reconnect with our guest and for her to wrap up our thoughts on the issue of tax waiver. Stay with us.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market, located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge, ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Markets, Souq Enlightenment.
Supposed to be paying subsidy in oil,
energy, or whatever kind of oil-green solution we will be looking at.
Today we are conducting mining today. Solid minerals, as an example, is, in no disrespect to anybody, is abysmal. We definitely need improvements in those areas. Of course, there are infrastructural needs.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, our guest is ready for us, and we still have Dr. Titilayo Fowokon with us. She's the Group Head Strategy, Tax and Compliance, Dangote Industries Limited. Glad to know you're still there with us, Dr. Fowokon. If you can hear me, I hope you can hear me. All right, glad to have you back. Glad to know you're there with us. I hope you can hear me. Okay, we can hear you from here. Maybe you check your device. What could be the challenge there? All right, while we wait for our guest, Blessing, the issue of tax waiver, like I was saying, has to be done for economic reasons. Like that's what she's trying to buttress. A good example, a good reference is the free trade zone. The free trade zone, the one in Lagos, the Lekki Free Trade Zone, which is like a tax-free area. You see a lot of companies, they prefer that kind of arrangement in order to encourage. It's like when granting of tax waiver is to encourage proper investment. If a federal government feels that a particular sector is very crucial to the economic growth and development of the country, will create more jobs, will give it rooms for proper development. The federal government in its own wisdom can decide to grant waivers, and that's exactly why you have a good reference with that of Lekki Trade Zones, where you have Dangote Refinery, some of these big companies. You can imagine if Dangote Refinery will have to pay tax for that kind of, refinery in that kind of a place. It might not be so encouraging. So that's why they grant that kind of incentives for investors, for them to attract the proper investment. So the priority is tax waiver has to be done for economic reasons, and that's
that, but the thing is, some sectors seem to enjoy tax waivers, some others have really never gotten that. Now, if it's a thing where certain sectors are picked per time and then it goes round, it may not go round completely, but at least across board to an extent, so that other sectors can have that relief and benefit from it. That's what I was trying to point out there. Now, when we have established connection again with a guest, we'll continue that conversation. But really, talking about the multiple, all right, so let's take the conversation back to her. Now, the question is, for tax waivers, should it be a thing that goes to certain businesses, certain industries per time, so that that relief is felt by most industries at least once in a while, or it has to be selected industries and that's it? It's a carpet thing for selected industries.
Okay, tax waivers is not supposed to be selected and the casting stone. For tax waivers to be considered, the first will be, what is the economic need of those industry? Do we need to develop a particular industry? For instance, I know at a point we had some relief. You know, we have the tax holidays that are given to specific industries, and it's time bound, 3 to 5 years. That's in the law. We have a special act that now talks about how those holidays are going to happen, the condition for approval, and what they're supposed to do. In such a case, especially for pioneer companies, they are to have an annual report of the contribution they are making to the economy, employment, development of the economy, capital investment, and things like that. So the first 3 years, they need to report. They can now apply for additional 2 years. Believe that within 5 years, they would have stabilized. They would have been able to make some contributions or recoup the investments they have made and be able to start contributing in taxes. So they get a tax-free period of 5 years. So also for companies that are into gas utilization under the Companies Income Tax Act, so that we don't flare gas again, they are given incentive of 3 to 5 years also. Once they are able to stabilize, and then we can get some other ways of using our gas, which led us into the CNG now that we're not talking about. So tax incentive is not because we just want to favor some industries, it's because we want to develop some sectors of the economy. And once there's what we want is that an assessment, as this incentive achieves its objective for that particular sector. If yes, then it should be revisited. It should be removed, and then let them start to contribute to the tax net. That is how we believe tax incentives should be run. Now we have things around free zones. We have the export processing zone. What is the whole essence? To encourage people to export goods out of the country and bring back the foreign exchange so we can have our foreign exchange reserve boosted. This is the objective. So there's need to be reviewing these incentives and be sure that it has not outlived its purpose. That's what we're saying. It doesn't mean it must be for a particular sector or mean for some set of people. It can be given to any industry as long as there's an economic need.
Oh, the internet has played another trick. All right, she was talking about the necessity of tax waivers. You mentioned the fact that should it be selective, and that she gave the right answer that it shouldn't be selective. It just should be for economic reason. Let me read to you part of the recommendations made by this committee. It says suspension of VAT on diesel and tax waivers on CNG conversion and renewable energy times. You know, there's been concern in Nigeria about the over-reliance on the use of petrol.
Yes.
And so that's why they come up with the option of CNG conversion for vehicles, to reduce the issue of carbon emission and all that. Now, she said something quite strategic, which is the fact that government can consider tax waiver for the reason of investment. Now, what government is trying to do by suspecting VAT on the issue of CNG conversion is to encourage investors to look in that direction. You agree with me that the greatest challenge here when it comes to CNG is the issue of conversion units, conversion points in Nigeria where that can be done at a commercial level. So government is trying to suspend VAT in that level to encourage investors to go in that direction, invest in the right equipment, create several outlets in Nigeria. As much as we talk about the need for people to convert their petrol vehicles to gas or CNG, it's important you have enough outlets all over the country. And if that is still a shortfall, it will not help the conversion itself. So that's why government has to suspend the issue, or they are recommending
a tax waiver,
like a form of suspension of VAT. It means if you're an investor who wants to invest in CNG conversion, you don't have to pay VAT, value-added tax for that. Then the issue of diesel as well, you know that it's an alternative to petrol. If you need to power your business, it's either you use a petrol power generator, a diesel power generator. So those are the options you have. And due to the removal of fuel subsidy, the issue of petrol is becoming unaffordable for small businesses, and that's why they need to create alternatives so that it's good for these business owners to stay in businesses. On the other hand, the government might be losing revenue because when it comes to other sources of revenue, value-added tax is a source of revenue for the federal government and even for states. But when you lift this kind of, or you grant waiver or suspend the issue of VAT, the federal government or states at the same time, they are losing revenue that should have accrued to the general account. But hey, the implication here also, you're also giving incentives for investors to come into a particular sector, which is the oil and gas sector in this case, for them to be able to play that critical role for the economy to thrive and then for businesses to do well at this crucial time.
Yes, it's like losing in one side and gaining in this side. While the government wants to show up revenue by getting more taxes, but the thing is, it's also to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. For instance, the CNG that you talked about, if you have more investors come in, it's just going to be for a period of time. After some time, they will still get to pay the VAT on that. And for the consumers as well, which are the citizens, it's a way of government giving back to them, because you realize, you also recall that the VAT too was waived for cooking gas, and that has to an extent led to the reduction in the price of cooking gas. Some of these things are done as social intervention as well. So while government needs money, it also remembers that it has some obligations to its citizens. So it's to cushion the effect of the economic conditions on the businesses and also on the people. But in the long run, the government gains from it, because when you create the environment for the businesses to thrive, it then means they're in better position to pay the taxes later on. So it's a win-win on either side. It's just like an investment too for government, and later the gains begin to come in.
All right, Dr. Souq, I'm glad to have you back with us. Now, let's look at the issue of technology. You know, part of the recommendations of this committee is to deploy technology to drive tax revenue and, you know, tax policies in Nigeria. They call it data for tax. But aren't you worried with the kind of infrastructural deficit that we have here, if that will see the light of the day?
I think it's a development that whether we like it or not, it will happen. The fact that we have infrastructure deficit should not stop us from moving towards the trend of events in every other country. I would say that we don't need to start when we have the big technology or we already have something we can use for data for tax. And if you listen very well to the chairman of the committee, Taiwo Yedele, he said, we have NIN. How useful is the NIN? We have BVN. How useful is the BVN? Now, if you want to do anything today, your bank account is tied to your BVN. And if you want to go for your international passport, your passport is tied to your NIN. So the question is, what else can we make use of this information? That is data. Do we have a good database of taxpayers, both state and federal? Do we have a good database of tax collection by taxpayer, by industry, time within a particular time? Can we provide our data of tax collection for the past 5 to 10 years? We need to have we have something in place. Let's even start from what we have. Let's maximize the usage of the data we have. As we go along, we start to look at how can we step up. We cannot be starting from artificial intelligence where you don't even have the normal intelligence. We should first of all use our normal intelligence to be able to drive compliance, to be able to drive responsibility and accountability, so that taxpayers can know that we have what it takes to even start this process. And I know that the data for tax that he's talking about is not until when we have a big technology or go and get the big tech companies. Let's even start with the basic information that we have. Every company, if the government starts to publish the FIRS accounts of tax collection, tax expenditure, their running activities, their capital expenditure, Maybe that will start to make us know, oh, government knows what they're doing. Because we need to have, to show that all this information we provide, we file monthly returns, we file annual returns, we file all this, and it's supposed to be for government to track the performance of people in terms of compliance. So compliance does not need for you to have a big technology to be able to track whether people are paying the right tax or not. We have bank transactions. Now we don't have cash. Everybody is now struggling. We have the people now, only the people that can afford will go and use POS. You can't even do across the counter bank transactions now. You have to do transfers. How have we been able to use this to legitimately determine those who have filed the tax, who have paid their taxes, and not just paid the right taxes? But what we've observed is that we are going after those who are paying tax and asking them to pay more, when some are not even in the tax net at all. So this is what we are talking about, data for tax. The data we have now, have we used them? How effective have we used them? That's my understanding. Now, before we now start talking about high technology, let's even use what we have to be able to estimate where are we on tax payment, on tax compliance, on tax collection, and then be able to start from somewhere. That's my thought.
Okay, the concentration seems to be on the FIRS as the federal body, but every state have their own Inland Revenue Service. So what should the state's Inland Revenue Service do in this regard, particularly as it concerns the informal sector? Now, you talked about natural intelligence before artificial intelligence. With the different data that we have collected by different agencies, how do we harmonize that to reflect our peculiar environment for those who have not registered their business, the traders in the markets, but they have to pay taxes as well? How do we get data and bring them in, and then it's on the record that they do pay their taxes?
Okay, for the states, I think for states it's easier because each of these non-informal sector has a group. And I know at a point, even if we look at amendment to Personal Income Tax Act in 2011, there's a section on presumptive tax regime. I know states like Lagos have been working using that. They've done, I know they've done, is it Bile Hub or something that they've used to make people to pay tax, especially the informal sector. I am aware of their informal sector units, how they go to market women, come to their level, explain to them what they need to know, and see how they can get them to pay their tax. Knowing fully well that this set of people are not people that have audited accounts and all those formal processes. There must be a way around it. I know of some states that do what we call presumptive regime, whereby they will tell them to pay maybe 50 naira per day for something, or work out an estimate. How much do you buy? How much do you sell? This is what you can get. And then go to the markets, have their people on ground, going to the markets to educate them and to tell them how to pay. And I can tell you that if you go to a market like My 12, you would see some of these people, they have some offices there that educate them. So for the informal sector, it just takes the states to understand the terrain of the informal sector, how best to reach out to them. We have Market Women Association, we have all the Artisans Association, we have the Okada Riders Association. Why can't we leverage on this association? They have a data of their members. The data of their members will give you an idea of those who you know have been coming to do their small tax payments and those who are not contributed at all. So this is what we're talking about. The states can also leverage on this. I know some states that will say that for you to, if you're in a particular business, this is what you can pay every month as your part payment of your taxes, because they have an idea of how the turnover comes and everything. They work out something. So it requires some intelligence on the part of the state to also be able to guide this informal sector so that they can come up with something that may make them to pay the tax. Maybe not the full tax, but at least something that shows their tax compliance status.
All right, Dr. Titi Lai for Wokon, we just have to leave the conversation here. Thank you so much for your time and your submissions on the issue of tax reforms in Nigeria. We quite appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here.
All right, Blessing.
Yes, it's been an interesting one talking about taxation, and it's something that's very interesting and is needed to talk about, because if Nigeria intends to increase its tax to GDP ratio and also increase tax compliance in the year 2024, then of course the reform should happen by every means. And tax education, like she mentioned, is something that every Nigerian needs to know. You need to understand the taxes that you should pay and why you should pay them. Then on the other hand, the government owes the tax paying Nigerians the responsibility of ensuring the judicious use of the taxes paid. It's our expectation that through that we'll get to see more development happen in Nigeria. That's the show today. Thank you so much for being with us. We value your time with us on the show. We ask that you give it to us again tomorrow, beginning from 8 a.m. West African time. I'm Blessing AJ. Coming up at 11 will be Market Insights. Afterwards, there is Souq Sport, and there are so many other programs that you can enjoy here on Souq News. We ask that you spend your day with us. You will not regret it, I assure you of that. Go on and enjoy your day. I am Blessing AJ.
From me to you, think of what you can do for your country, and one of the things you can do is to ensure that you pay your tax or taxes as related at the appropriate time. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now.